if I buy the land underneath me for half the market value and I obtain title, that means I can sell it the next day
for full value
and double your money. People talk about susu. This is doubling your money, right? So that is something very interesting. Now the other part of it is that the power that you don't have, as our president Kimona has said, there are powers that you do not have, and not because you are there for X amount of period of time paying your X amount of period of rent means that the landlord cannot, with the right tools and techniques, get you off of the land by court order. So it is important to understand, as I said, your position in power and in power. But Mr. Ramu, one of the things that you kind of glossed it over earlier, what do you think is one of the keys to your relationship with your tenants to be able to get them to be agreeable? Because I know that there's a lot of landlords out there who also would like to be in a position like yours. What do you think are some of those elements?
Well, number one, it was my demeanor. That is the number one thing. I have to understand that a lot of these tenants here were on the lands for decades before I was even born. So it would be bold-faced for me to come there and just want to show them out, you know.
Right.
Same thing as Peters just said. Somebody just said that. Yeah.
Yes. So it makes no sense going there for persons who are there for 40, 50, 60, maybe even 70 years. And you want to, or so they want to make power pleas that you want them to go. You can't do that. So when we realized that, you know, everybody, you know, this was saying during the pandemic, all of us are in this together. This is literally what is going on. Everybody under one title, you know. So if we work on this, everybody have the possibility on getting their title. So it was really my demeanor. If anybody had questions, you sit down and you talk to them, you be more open, because some of them, the older generation, not so much, but you see the younger generation, they would say, well, let me see your title. Let me see your deed. You have to show them. You know, you can't just say use the landlord, the landowner, and you have no proof. That would not work. Especially the younger generation. The older generation, you could talk nice to them, you could dress in suit and tie, you could mama guide them a little bit, you know, oh, look, that's his son. You could work with that. But the younger generation, not so much. And if you deal with them straight, they will deal with you straight. And plus, when you bring documentation, a lot. In Trinidad, is a small place. Everybody knows somebody. You know somebody in warden office. You know somebody in registrar general office. You know somebody in WASA. They say, check up on this name for me and see who name on the land. And if they realize you're telling the truth, they're more likely to deal with you. They have ways. Some of them might actually already know who the land owner is. And before you even come, you already know. And they're just sitting down there, wanted to see if you're telling the truth. And when they realize you're telling the truth, they say, yeah, you see this man here, we could deal with him, we could talk to him.
Yeah.
So it's all about demeanor and being truthful.
It's all about demeanor. And when you would have met resistance, as Ms. Danielle would have met.
Well, the resistance, we didn't get no resistance in the beginning. Funny enough, we didn't get no resistance. The little resistance that started to come in is, for example, when they start to pay the rent now, remember, once your name reach on the title, is your responsibility on the land. So now, when it comes to complaints, they're coming by you.
Right.
My neighbor drain, my neighbor boundary, the road need fixing, the drain need cleaning, this one making noise, this one burning too much rubbish, ash flying all over the place. So now you have to take responsibility. Now it might have some things you begin to realize, wait a minute, this complaint a little too petty. And then you begin to realize these neighbors have an issue going back for decades before you're even born. And now as you came forward now, they want to come to you with the complaint and for you to deal with it.
Right.
So you have
So you have to pick sense from nonsense, basically.
Correct. You have to do that, and you have to be more discerning, and you have to realize, okay, you see this person, yeah, they'll pay the rent from you, but they will try to squeeze out of you as much as possible. They want the drain clean, they want this, they want that before they pay the rent.
Yeah.
You have that, and then you have those have no problem. They would say, Karen, I will clean the drain. Don't study that. Me and my brother will do that, and they pay the 300 and they're good.
Yeah.
So you have all those different issues and scenarios that pay off that you as a landowner, you have to learn on the fly what to do.
Right. Yeah.
Mr. Ram, I want you to walk us through, because I really enjoy doing this with you. Walk us through some of what we would have gone through. I love your tenants. They're very how should I put it, animated, to say the least.
Right.
And of course, my part was not as, I do know that my demeanor is, you know, well in line with what I do for a living, right? We oftentimes, just by the way I would put across information, jargon that I use, tone of voice even, I know that people start to get uneasy, right? So when I came in for the legal part, I met some opposition, specifically when I had to communicate fact in relation to the title reality that many of them would now be in. I remember in particular, we had two biological brothers who hated each other for whatever reason. However, their properties were too close to each other in proximity that the surveyor couldn't necessarily separate their lots. So he told me that, and I had to let them know that I had to put them on one piece of document together. I don't want to say one deed, but because it's not deeds under the RP, but I'll have to put them on one certificate of transfer as joint tenants or tenants in common, and they were not having it.
That's correct.
They were not having it. They said they did not like each other. They did not want to share, but we couldn't get to their 10,000 to separate them into 5 each. How do you remember how we
eventually what we did, and this is interesting. Go ahead, Mr. Ram, because you can talk on that.
All right.
Yeah.
So, well, just to give you a history, so what happened, my grandfather, when he was the owner of the lands together with his brothers and sisters, he was pretty much the only one living on the land. Everybody else moved away. And before it was agricultural farming, and around the 50s or so, he decided, you know what, let me start renting the lands. So, you know, people back in the day, you just go measure 50 by 100, 50 by 100, and you just go in like that all over the lands. And people will just come build a house and they pay their land rent. There was no Town and Country Planning Act at that time. Yeah. Right? And he did what he believed was right. So what happened now is that the generations later now have to fix the problem. And this is where I came in. Because when it comes to RPO lands, before you sell anything, it has to be Town and Country approved, the subdivisions. And subdivisions was never done. So now we have to hire the surveyor and do the subdivisions. And then once the subdivisions is mapped out, I would see now, because before I would use approximations of square footage, now I will know exactly who have how much square footage. So to the two brothers now, the original house was at the front, had their 5,000 square feet. My brother built in the back. But the brother didn't really have the 5,000 square feet. Just he brought in the front. So the only way it works is if the two brothers end up on one title at the end of the day, because Town and Country rules is 5,000 square feet and up.
Each.
And well, the brothers, this brother and that brother, and who wife and this wife not talking. All kinds of things, right? Family business. But thankfully, with the surveyors now, they could appreciate all the other person's boundaries. And I spoke to a neighbor, and he was very helpful. And he said, listen, I just want my 5,000 square feet. You know, you could do whatever with the boundaries. I want my 5,000 square feet. It just so happened his father just passed away. He never really lived there. So he said once he gets his 5,000 square feet and he get his title in the end, he good to go. And the surveyor was able to do, was able to do some modifications, and it just so happened the two brothers was able to get 5,000 square feet each. And now their subdivisions, inclusive of all the others, are now at Town and Country, and we just awaiting regularization and approval. So it can work out. I was lucky enough for that to happen.
Yeah, for others, have the land next to them.
Yeah.
No,
I may not be that lucky.
Right. And one of the things too, and I would say this a little bit emboldened. There is, because Mr. Ramu's lands in particular, and I'm sure a lot of you out there, your lands have been subdivided before Town and Country was an embryo, right? Before Town and Country became into, Town and Country has to take that into consideration. So there are going to be undersized approved lots. Now, you can't be doing it deliberately, willy-nilly, and all over the place. That is not, it's not going but if it cannot be done, and we have to undersize, and Town and Country, has to undersize a lot, it can be considered.